pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome all. Alice, you want to do a roll call for us, please?
Tracos, Capitona,
Here.
Delogli,
Here.
Smith, Deskin,
Here.
Vandermeer,
Here.
Beretta,
Here.
and Bartleson. Here.
Thank you much.
Welcome.
Yep. All right.
He's present.
Jim will probably be here in a little bit. Brian's on vacation, so. Okay, a couple things before we get into the meat of the meeting is I had asked Lockmaster Walsh to come up here and give us a quick presentation. And one of the things that we're doing at Old Canal Days this year is we're going to give little tours over to lock number 1 on the sanitary shipping canal, not the small I&M canal one, which anybody can walk to anytime, but the big sanitary shipping canal lock, which is very special. You don't get to just go down there. You know, it has some restricted access, and so this is a really great opportunity for residents and visitors to get on the bus at Heritage Village on June 20 and 21st during Old Canal Days, and the bus will take you over to lock number 1, and you'll get to see what it looks like. It's really very fascinating. And so Mr. Walsh agreed to come out here and do a presentation for us to show us a little bit about the importance of that. So come on up.
All right, we're going to run through this pretty quick. I know you guys want to get home for the Blackhawks game, don't you?
What game? See, I'm not a hockey fan, so we're staying all night. Yeah. We're going to talk about parkway trees.
Okay, so we're going to go over just a little bit of what we're going to go over during the tour of our lock on the 20th and 21st of this month. Our lock is actually the second lock number 2 on the Illinois Waterway. The Illinois Waterway is the link that connects the Great Lakes with the Mississippi River. Here's kind of a breakdown of the stair step of water, as we call it. You can see Lockport is number 2 there. T.J. O'Brien is actually number 1 up there on pretty much right up there by south side of Chicago. Then there's also one over by Navy Pier, that's Chicago Harbor Lock. You can see the elevation changes between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River. In total, the Illinois Waterway drops the water level down 159 feet over the course of 300-something miles. Construction began in 1923, along with 5 other locks on the Illinois Waterway. Illinois actually began the construction. They invested a little over $2 million in construction of the lock. The state, if you can imagine, the state of Illinois suffered some financial troubles, and the federal government in 1930 took over the project when it was already 97% complete. The federal government only spent about $133,000 to finish that lock. Total cost was a little over $2 million for the lock, and it finally opened in 1933 with a total design life of 50 years. We've obviously exceeded that. We've had several rehab projects over the course of the year. The most expensive one would have been in 1989 at a cost of about $22.7 million. Wow,
There's some inflation.
So if you look at what they spent to originally build the lock and then what it cost to rehab it several years later, it's quite a change. Our total lock chamber is 600 foot long, 110 foot wide. We can accommodate up to 9 barges per lockage and a maximum tow size of 15 barges. If we get tows that are larger than 9 barges, we have to break them in half, and we actually lock them in 2 pieces. Hopefully we get a few of those that day of the tours, and some of the tourists could see some of those things. Maximum lift is 42 feet. However, we average about 39 feet on most days. We could fill the large lock chamber in about 22 minutes, and it only takes about 15 minutes to empty it. Here's a little picture that kind of shows how the lock actually works. There's actually no pumps that fill or empty the lock chamber. It's all gravity fed. We have giant culvert valves that we raise with the hydraulic cylinder that open and close the valves, and gravity will actually bring the water in and out of the lock chamber. Here we have it's a time-lapse video we're going to show you. It's a lockage, took place over about an hour and 15 minutes, and you're going to see it in 22 seconds. If I can figure out how to get it to play.
You took it at night, though.
It actually does not seem to want to work.
button on the lower left. There you go.
Well, that was the best part of this presentation. Doesn't want to work. All right, we will move on. The lockage process that you were supposed to see was completed 3,270 times in 2014. We locked through 3,352 commercial vessels and 370 recreational vessels. So the lock chamber isn't just there for commercial traffic. It's used quite a bit by recreational users as well. 2014, we had a total of 12.4 million tons of cargo passing through the lock. Most major commodities include petroleum products, coal, grains, chemicals, aggregates, scrap, finished steel products, mulches, fertilizers, cement, and most of the salt that you guys use on your roadways around here actually comes up this way by barge load. So again, we ask, why are the locks important to us? This is probably the sheet that gives us the biggest wow whenever somebody comes out to the lock. This is a breakdown of what one barge would be equivalent to in rail cars and semis. One single barge is equivalent to 58 semis. 115 barge tow, which is the maximum they could push, keeps 870 semis off the local roads. It's pretty huge. Vessels transiting through Lockport in 2014 kept roughly 479,000 trucks off the local roads here and about 1,100 trains off the tracks running through Lockport. Another question a lot of people ask is, well, is it more expensive? No, actually, it's quite a bit cheaper. 1 gallon of fuel will move 1 ton of cargo 60 miles by truck, 200 miles by rail, or 500 miles per barge. So significantly less fuel equals less emissions and obviously lower cost to the consumer. The tours on the 20th and 21st, we're planning on them being about 30 minutes in length. We'll do a complete walk around of the lock. We'll go over a lot of the figures we had here this evening. Also, we'll show them the original lock chamber, the On-M Canal one between us and the powerhouse, the original one from 1907. It still has wooden gates and everything on it. There's obviously a concrete bulkhead there now to keep any water from eroding anything away, but the lock chamber and the gates and everything are still there, so that's something everybody likes to see. And we'll also be providing handouts to all those that come out and tour both those days. Anybody have any questions?
The original, right here.
No, that's great.
It's amazing.
We really appreciate you coming out here and
Hey,
showing
no
this.
problem.
And especially open up the locks for us to see on those couple days. If anybody catches a barge going through it, it's really fun. It's like watching the gates of Mordor open.
Yep.
It's just really, really fascinating. It's what our namesake is, Lockport. So thank you for coming up and sharing that.
Very
Is there a
welcome. Thanks for
certain
having us.
area of the Old Canal Days to go to, or do you have to pre-sign
It's
up
at the
for this?
Heritage Village.
At the Heritage
so
Village,
go to
okay.
Heritage Village on 2nd Street, and that's where the bus will be. And there'll be a little tent that says "Load up here for the bus." So they'll just run them every hour, starting at 10 o'clock. And they'll run. I think the last one goes at 3:15, and we'll do it both Saturday and Sunday.
It's coming up weekend? This
Canal Days week.
Canal Days, the 20th and 21st.
And get there early because the sign-up sheets, they fill up really fast.
Yeah, they did. Last year we did tours of the powerhouse, and you just it was hard to get to go see them because the bus filled up quickly. So,
Excellent.
all right,
All right,
fellas,
thank you.
thanks a lot. Really appreciate you coming out. Bravo, bravo. All right, and then one other thing too. I had a lady gave me a call the other day, Stephanie Adams, and she was talking to me about Nick Lindblad. Some of you may have read about him in the newspaper. He's a young boy who lives on the west side, in need of a heart transplant. And she asked, hey, can I just come to council and just say a few words in support of the family, support of Nick, maybe some ideas that she has to how we can help support, one of our youngest residents with such a big need. So please, Stephanie, come up and talk. And BJ Ferry's here too, better known as Mrs. Ferry, right, from Milne Grove School.
Thanks, sir. Hello, thank you for allowing us to come and talk with you. Nick Lindblad is a student at District 91, Millen Calvin Grove. Stephanie's a kindergarten teacher there, and I'm the principal secretary at Millen. And I've known Nick since he was young, when he first came to Millen. He's now at Calvin. And he was born with a congenital heart disease. It's actually called hypoplastic heart syndrome. He's finally to the point where he can have a heart transplant. He's at Lurie. They won't let him leave Lurie because they don't want him to get any infections. He's at the top of the list. I believe there are like 6 to 10, I believe, kids that are waiting for heart transplants right now at Lurie. But living in Lockport, you know, we're just trying to figure out some ways to help them. Now, myself, I'm treasurer for Lockport Love. Chief is the chief of Lockport Love, Chief Lemming, and we have had Lockport Love being a charitable organization formed last year. We have helped many families by having fundraisers, and then we in turn help them at the holiday season. And we try to concentrate on families like Nick's family, a father, mother, or child with some sort of a serious illness, or maybe someone has lost a job. And we were able to help quite a few families, and we hope to help a lot more next holiday season. We have a motorcycle run coming up on the 28th of June. We did help Nick at Christmas, and it was absolutely awesome. We had Santa Claus. We brought Chief Lemming. We had the fire trucks and police cars. We went directly to his home. The kid was absolutely thrilled. We had presents for him, gift certificates. Now, we just had an evening bowling thing that we raised some money for Nick. The thing is that we would like to bring attention to the community, and that's where Stephanie's going to take over, because we just feel like maybe there's more we can do. At Mill and Calvin, we had Wear Red for Nick Day, and all the kids wore red, and every classroom, every student in every classroom wrote Nick some kind of an original card. Some kids made stars and said, "You're our star." They transported all this stuff up to Lori, and he has been sitting in his bed because he can't leave, reading all these. But we're thinking, you know, I know my family, we go to Door County every year, and there was a little boy in Door County a couple of years ago that had leukemia, and the entire village of Ephraim and a couple other villages, they rallied around, and this little boy liked orange. Nick is red. This little boy happened to like orange. They had orange ribbons on the trees, and even as a tourist, the tourists were finding out about it. You can go to the website, people were donating money. We're just looking for any way, we're looking for that, and there is a website for Nick, and I did give it to Mayor, so go ahead, this is Stephanie.
Thank you. We had Open Your Heart for Nick Day. We all wore red. I was inspired by the story of Emily Beasley, the little girl from Mount Greenwood that passed away recently, when her whole neighborhood lit up their town in honor of her in her colors of purple and green. So my vision would be, I would love to see, I personally on my house have changed all my porch lights to red in support of Nick. And I'd like to see maybe if more people would be willing to light up either their house, their street, tie some red ribbons around trees and poles for Nick to show the family, although they're getting some help financially with fundraisers, I'd like to show them that their town is here supporting them, even while they're at the hospital waiting with Nick for his heart, that everyone here is thinking about them and keeping them in our hearts. Because if it was our child, I'm sure we would appreciate all of that support. That is it.
Well, I absolutely would love to see that happen too. I will put a big red bow on our porch, no doubt about it. I would love to see that. I could only imagine how that would make the Lindblad feel as they drive through town and see these kind of support. Know people are praying for them and thinking about them. So, thank you so much for having the heart to even come up here, you two. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having us.
All right, and so it's once again it's Open Your Heart 4 Nick.com. So openyourheartfornick.com.
.net, it's okay.
Oh, .net. I'm sorry.
Yes.
.net. So if anybody's interested in finding out more, openyourheartfornick.net with the number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Mayor.
Walmart sells bulbs that are red for $1.88 a piece, so it's a very cheap support. Thank you.
The red bulbs, yes. All right, Stephanie, BJ, thanks again. All right, Mercy. All right, why don't we, we'll go ahead and move on. Ben, you have the first item tonight?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We have, for your discussion this evening, we have the development agreement and intergovernmental agreement with the Legacy Events LLC and the Lockport Township Park District. If you recall, back on May 20th, Legacy Events has been approved with the city to construct and operate a haunted house facility on property adjacent to their current paintball park operations. We will show you a very short aerial video of progress down there. I think it's an exciting transition for the property down there. But tonight is about the development agreement for the road improvements. This will ultimately be a partnership between the city and Legacy, and potentially a partnership with the Park District to pay back the cost for these road improvements. The paintball park and Legacy Haunt will be on Park District property, and they'll have a separate agreement with them. The Park District and Legacy Events are currently working out their negotiations for the facility. That will also be subject to IDNR approval before we do any contract awards on the road. And this road provides access down to this new attraction that was approved by this council at the previous meeting. So again, two separate agreements. The first one is a development agreement with the petitioner. I know they're here tonight to take any questions. Basically, we are looking to offer an economic incentive grant for $125,000. This would be to cover costs for improvements and security measures. This will be an $85,000 chip and seal application and installation, $24,700 for grading and road preparation, $12,000 for a couple street lights and transformers, and a couple $1,000 in some poles and reflectors and signs. That's what the staff is recommending at this point. We're going to get into a separate option that I know JR wants to talk about, and we will discuss. But the concept of this, in either way, is to have the city be entitled to recover its economic grant for $1 per ticket per admission for the patrons of the haunted house facility. The development agreement is also attached to your packet tonight. It does include things like having them do a traffic study, having a security plan that I know the chief was willing to talk about, and that the city's investment is protected in this development agreement, that not only will we get $1 back per use on the ticket for the haunt, but if that were to fail, Legacy is willing to put $1 tax on their participants at the Legacy paintball, and then if that would ever fail, the partnership in a separate agreement has agreed to cover the investment at 50% from there. So staff feels comfortable moving forward with this. Again, the contract is in your packet. We can go over any part of it that anyone has questions on. Again, we will certainly have them have a traffic study during their peak season so we can evaluate what's going on. If it's warranted, we will work with them to have a cost estimate created, engineering potentially a new entrance and a 90-degree turn there from Division Street to Canal Road. Right now, you have to S around the community a little bit. But we feel on this, the first year or two as their attraction numbers grow, that the current situation and the chip and seal project can take this new volume of traffic for potentially 16 to 20 new dates for the year. I'd like to ask maybe Paul and Chuck to come up and talk a little bit about where we are and show this video that gives you a nice aerial of where things are right now. And then I think we'll have another discussion for another concept on the road for your consideration.
All right, sounds good.
Hi, Paul Season with Legacy Events. And we'll lead with the aerial. Oh, so this is drone footage of the site that we took. Just kind of pause it here. We're looking south in the building. This is east-west orientation. This is the north-south portion of the office building. And then this is the access point and access road here. It's a little congested right now because we haven't cleared this space out, but this is the parking area here. So I'll kind of start this over, kind of walk you through this. This is a wetland swamp area that we're protecting to the north, and then some vegetation that we were able to save in and around the area. This is actually part of the paintball park here. You'll kind of see some structures here that's a course there where
You have them muted.
kids like to run around and shoot each other with paintball guns. Mute. Sorry. Where's the mute?
There you go.
There you go. Buzzing like flies. Yeah. So all the vegetation that you see here will stay, save for some of the trees in this area here. These are actually limestone rocks that was buried under this spot here, and that limestone will be used in retaining walls in and around the site, and then as well on the road. A little choppy here. This is the actual gift shop area. This whole portion here is the haunted house portion. So this is where most of the people will walk through and see kind of a unique rock structure that was right there that we left, that we uncovered underneath the slag pile. And then just to kind of overview, I'll just scroll down. This is kind of tiny to see here, but this is the bulk of the Canal Street Road here that we're talking about. Obviously, it doesn't show it going all the way up to Canal Street. This is the future extension, as we talked about, the S-curve in and around Davies, and then this is all of Canal Street down to the site, which we just did an aerial view of. As I mentioned before, this is a haunted house orientation, I&M Canal Road. This is the retaining wall that we talked about, and then this is the portion that would be widened all the way up to the southern boundary of Lockport, which is right here. Color view. And then I believe you guys have seen most of the haunted house facade here. This was prior, this was just this past winter. This is what the site looked like prior to us doing the development, clearing out this area. Most of the vegetation that grows here is cottonwood. A lot of bush that is buckthorn trees as well, just basically garbage foliage that's in and around this area. Not something you'd want to have in a residential area, of course, but plays really nicely for the haunted house theming. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
All right.
And so the agreement with Legacy Events is again for the road that would start from where Canal does, away from Division and Davies, all the way down to the entrance you saw on that last slide from Paul, and actually about 50 feet past that, because the fire department had asked that they have an opportunity to do a three-point turn if necessary beyond that. If you want to show that, there you go. So pretty much down to in line with maybe the main entrance on Canal Road, or where you see it a little bit thicker, obviously. So that's the proposal that we have. And again, we're comfortable with the chip and seal process. We feel the economics of it and the risk of, this business and an incentive development grant will work well together. I know JR had made some comments at the last meeting, and we did receive a quote in lieu of doing a chip and seal, that we can actually do basically an asphalt road in lieu of. This would be a 3-inch binder, so it's not our typical road, but I think we would, for the volume of traffic, it would hold up fine. And it was quoted at $268,536. Now, that included about $25,000 for some final grade and compacting, which we were going to do anyway with the other bid. So, again, we're looking at an increase of about $150,000 on top of where we are today to get the job done. And I think there can be a case made that an asphalt road is a better surface, but I think with the CIP program and budgets, the city's not in a position to offer to lend, necessarily gift that money or incentivize that. And we had asked the petitioner if they were willing to spend the additional money for a better road, but they've indicated that they were more comfortable with the chip and seal at this time for cost reasons. But JR brought this up, and we wanted to bring it to your attention, and it's certainly a possibility. It's just a matter of where does the funding come from.
Jared, did you want to make a case for it?
I just wanted to, I'm not going to make a case for it, but I just wanted to see what the possibilities were. I mean, when I originally heard of Blacktop Road, people were throwing the $1 million around, and I said, well, I know it can be done for a lot less than $1 million. My problem is I drove down there with the gentleman from PT Faro. We looked at it, and most of his complaints were about the chip and sealing. That he goes, it can be very difficult to do. So I don't know where, if we're going to move forward with that, I would like to know more about who is willing to do it. What if they run into problems? What if it turns into more than $125,000 because they ran into problems? Which it seems like there's a potential to run into some problems down there. I just wanted to see what the other options were. I don't know. I kind of wanted to find out, if we're willing to go $1 a ticket to get the money back, can we go $2 a ticket and make a better road? I just was looking and I want to hear what more options are available to us, I guess. But, I just thought $1 million was way over where we wanted to go. But I thought if we can get it down under $300,000, I thought this is something we should consider, and I wanted to hear the story.
Yeah, and the original $800,000 or $900,000 or potentially $1 million was for basically a road construction, where this would be basically grinding the material in place and putting a 3-inch binder down. So it's not quite a full rebuild, but it certainly would be more permanent than a chip and seal. The other thing I wanted to just make a note that while I had the contractor down there, the connection of what I call the C, which is from Canal Road around the corner from Division around to Canal, we got a quote, just a budgetary quote of $20,000 to kind of resurface that section, which I think would be important to do if we can find the money separately, because it's on city property at that point anyway. And if we had some funding left over in the asphalt resurfacing project funds, that we could maybe get that done before this all happens. That then you have a true connection from the new asphalt from Division Street Bridge, this connection to chip and seal and or asphalt, and so it would be a much more cohesive arrival for these new visitors into the section of Lockport. So we are going to look at that, and I sent the quote to Amy. We're going to get some additional quotes, and we can bring that back at another time. But we weren't suggesting that we put that into the development agreement with the haunt, because again, that's a city road. That's not this canal road that we're talking about is on IDNR property. It's a private road. And so that's why we're offering this incentive as it is, and that we're not adding any liabilities or taking any responsibility for snow plowing or anything like that. There's also an agreement in your packet with the Park District that clarifies that, and that they are also basically giving up their right to some ticket money to wait until the city has paid back their development incentive grant. So both those agreements are before you tonight. We would be seeking approval for those on June 17th, unless you wanted to, consider another option.
Well, so my question is this. Paul, you've looked at this quote and you are familiar with this road thing. I mean, because we're, at the moment, willing to do this 150. It's not really a grant, it's basically a loan.
$125,000 incentive grant, yeah.
And so, and I'm okay with that. But like as JR says, if there's cost overruns, I mean, are you guys comfortable enough with this quote that you're not anticipating that? Because if suddenly it ends up being 225, I don't see it coming back to council for that. How's that going to work out?
Agreed. Right
if
now,
there's
in the
overruns?
development agreement, it states that we would put in 125 and contract to do this. It does show that any cost required beyond that would be on legacy. And I guess legally, where do we go from there if they get into halfway of it and it ends up being a lot more? But we had several companies quote this, and both felt confident that they could pull this off. It's basically a rural road, and you can. When we were down there with the other contractor in regards to asphalt, you could tell there was existing deteriorating old chip and seal and or old asphalt at one time. I mean, these are probably 20 years old, and so to do that again, I don't think is going to be too much of a problem.
Okay. Well, I mean, so as long as if there's overruns that you're comfortable at Legacy taking that on, then I know how much we're going to spend and where we stop. So
Right.
And Mayor, I'm comfortable, given that the city's had a couple of quotes on this and they're relatively comparable. I mean, obviously, we may be tight to that 125,000. I wouldn't anticipate we would, get to a point that it's going to become problematic for us. If there is, then those, whoever those, they're going to probably have some responsibility in that. If they hand us a quote for 85,000 and they're trying to charge 200,000,
Agreed.
that's an issue.
Well, who gets into that fight? Is that our fight then, or is that Legacy's
Well,
fight?
if they were contracted with us, yes. I mean, our engineering department and our legal team would potentially look at that. But that's why you bid these out and you got competitive bids. Remember that the 125,000 includes money for lighting and reflectors and things too. So the actual chip and seal process is only about $85,000, and it's about 25 grand for some grading and materials, so that when they do the chip and seal, they have a better surface to adhere to. So, this is done regularly in rural roads, and it's a process that's proven that will last a certain amount of time. That part is debatable, depending on volume of traffic and weather. But we're pretty confident this is going to last 5-7 years. And at that point, there is nothing in this document that adheres us to doing something in the future. If it deteriorates in 4.5 years, that we will have to work together to look at other options in the future going forward after this incentive loan is paid back.
And if Legacy, if you guys decide to put your own, a full-blown road in one day, you don't have to rip, chip, and seal out, right? Can you grind it down and place?
The bid that we had from the contractor with the asphalt before said he was just going to what they call grind and leave in place. And so yes, you can utilize the material that's there. So the improvement we're doing today could potentially make it a little easier for a future company to do something.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm in agreement with JR. When if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Which of course doubles the cost. Are you comfortable with doubling the head tax to $2?
I would be, absolutely. I think the problem that we ran into is because we're on such a tight budget from a startup perspective. We didn't have anything to contribute really into the road. Certainly on a go-forward basis, if it got us a better road that we were, had better confidence in, yes, we would be comfortable with that.
Okay, so that being said, and I suspected you were going to say yes, then shouldn't we maybe just have something in 2 weeks that we could look at with the $2 and I guess I'm saying should we table this thought without tabling it and not really bring it up for a vote in the first week in July, first meeting in July, but maybe the second week in July, so we can better crunch these numbers, because in my opinion, we don't need the road until October. So to wait another 2 weeks.
We do have time. This would be something that we could certainly crunch some different numbers and talk to Paul about additional taxes that they're willing to do, and we'd have to talk to the Park District. We probably have to get additional conversations with the IDNR to see if they would accept an asphalt surface. I guess I wasn't ready to think of additional tax to handle it. I'd have to talk to finance and CIP, and we're remember that we are pulling funds from our reserves basically to be paid back for this. So we do have a good amount of reserves, but it's not a huge amount, but it's another $150,000. It's significant.
All right, so why don't
Amy,
I guess
believe Amy has something to say.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, Amy.
Amy's there.
Yeah.
The expert.
I just want to make a comment. The $300,000 for the 3 inches of binder does not include any surface and does not include any base course. So in my opinion, 3 inches of binder is not going to last much longer than the chip and seal. So, Darren says if we're going to do it, we should do it right. To do it right, it's going to cost a lot more than $300,000 because that road has no base.
Okay.
So, that's just my opinion.
Right.
I mean, we can go and get quotes for, resurfacing and stuff, but to do it right, where it's going to last more than 5 years, it's going to cost more than $300,000.
Okay. I mean, personally, I've been partial to, if you guys are comfortable with a chip and seal road, then I'm comfortable with it. And if you feel like it can be ground down some time in the future as a base for a full-blown road, if that's what it comes down to, you guys are wildly successful, then that's great. It's not like you got to rip all that material out and throw it in a dumpster somewhere. What's your opinion on that, Amy? Is that
I think that if at some point in the future that we decide to make a full-blown road out there, it probably will all have to be removed.
okay? So it's not that you just chip it up in place and
No, because there's no base, there's no stone base to that road. And
Okay.
so as well as I do, when you reconstruct a road, everything has to go, and you have to go in with all new stone base.
okay.
And, maybe some of that material could be salvaged, but when we milled out your road that we just constructed, on 10th and Jefferson Street, we didn't salvage any of that material and use it as the base.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, I mean, it really comes down to, if I don't have a problem doing this chip and seal road. If you feel like it's going to get you going over at Legacy and that makes this thing happen, and you know that it's your responsibility from here on out after it gets kickstarted, I think it would be a great asset in the community and, So I'm for it. As long as you're comfortable with chip and seal, then I truly am. I mean, I don't, if it's gonna end up being $500,000 after you do the other parts of it, then, yeah, that's getting in the uncomfortable zone for me as on the council to fund that, but,
Yeah, I think it's just risk reward. Obviously, if you have a comparable surface with a 3-inch, or there's not a significant difference. I mean, Legacy's comfortable. We understand, we're asking the city to help, so we want to minimize the risk to the city. So we're comfortable with the chip and seal, provided that there isn't, there isn't a night and day difference between the 3-inch asphalt and the chip and seal.
well, in light of Amy's testimony, do you guys still feel like you want to do a further study for that then?
I don't think there's a need based
No,
on.
I'm comfortable with the chip and seal.
Okay, JR?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so, any other discussion, or is this something we can put on a,
We'll have this for your vote on June 17th. I just wanted to bring up just a couple other conditions in the development agreement. We did talk about them participating with a traffic study. There were some questions about hours of operations and dates. I don't know if you want to reiterate some of those for the records. I think we talked about those at planning and zoning, but we didn't necessarily talk about them today.
Briefly, the license agreement with the Park District will mandate their approval on the days of operation. We will be typically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a couple Thursdays, and you're looking at about 7 p.m. to about 11 p.m.
Yeah.
and Chief, can you talk a little bit about how you feel like you can deal with traffic down there?
I met with Paul today, as a matter of fact, and we talked about his safety plan, the traffic, and there was comments, I believe, at the last council meeting about people driving in the residential area there. So I think we came up with a pretty good plan. We'll start out with Public Works putting barriers up right there when you turn off Davie Road into the park that will say local residents only. So that Public Works would start doing that, and maybe after that, if that was a successful route, that they would do their own signs and place them out there every time the park was open. We talked about traffic. We talked about staffing the park as well, and they're going to start out with 1 police officer from the Park District inside the park, and then a Lockport officer at Division and State Street as well for traffic control. So we talked about that, and basically it was our suggestion that they actually have 2 officers in the park to start, because that would set the tone for safety, and they agreed to do it. So I'm very pleased with their plan. After we met with them at the police station, we went out to the park and saw it as well. My background is I worked at Haunted Trails for 20 years, and no pension, by the way. Just so I have no pension. Get that straight right away. But I have a lot of experience with haunted house security, and we reviewed their plan and believe that it's an adequate plan. And the fact that they're willing to add more security at the beginning. Now, remember, if they have a small crowd, they'll pare that back down. But we're satisfied with the plan. The way the road is right now, it's bumpy, and from a police perspective, that's good, because the cars are going to go slow. I understand, you might want to put money into that road, but from our perspective, we're okay with a bumpy road. Again, that is jurisdiction of the Park District, not us. So I believe our citizens will be happy with the signs that we put up. I don't know if it's going to prevent everybody from going in there, but we believe it'll prevent a lot. The traffic on State Street, again, we may need, on a busy night, if you're starting to get 1,000 people in there, we might need more than 1 person on Division Street. Their haunted house is huge. I mean, it's probably 2 or 3 times the size of any other one in Northern Illinois. What you saw on the drone photographs or video, the building's almost complete now. It's almost done. It's huge inside. It's going to be a big operation. It's going to draw a lot of people to Lockport. I think the plan's adequate, and the fact that they're listening to us is a good thing, too.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
The last thing I have in regards to this matter, Mayor, is I did get a couple phone calls and emails on this. One of the aldermen not here tonight wanted to ask about the landscape plan. I believe the plan is to go back to a natural setting. I mean, This was a special use. We didn't file a PUD, so we're asking the petitioner to at least answer the question in regards to what their plan is. I heard something about limestone rocks and trees, and so if you just want to comment on that, Paul, just for the record.
Yes, absolutely. So the plan is to allow the vegetation to grow back. Again, it plays into the overgrown nature of the haunted house, into the atmosphere, the themed atmosphere. Very much like the paintball park. The paintball park doesn't have a landscape plan. We want the vegetation to grow up. It becomes part of the course. Same thing for the haunted house. The limestone rocks that we uncovered will be used in all the retaining walls. It's very much like the limestone, massive limestone rocks that a lot of landscaping companies use for Eden Downs croppings and seat walls and that. So the plan is, again, just to allow it to propagate back up.
The last question they had in regard to the building itself, I know we included a picture with the packet in regards to earth tone colors for the building. You plan to put the facade for the haunted house on the north face, is that correct? Correct. And then he was just asking, was there a timeline, or that you anticipate to do the rest of this north face and or east face, or would you plan to paint it black, or to keep in concert with the theme, or what is your plan there as far as timeline?
So the actual, one of the stock colors was a gray. We elected to go with earth tones because it falls more in line with the Park District buildings. At a certain point in the future, the plan, once our businesses leave, this remains Park District property. We anticipate the Park District will make use of the building, so we didn't want to paint it an off color or choose an off color that probably didn't sit with what they had. As far as timing on the facade goes, I'm sure my investors would love if I could give them a definitive timeline on revenue. I can't. It's going to be as cash flow permits. Hopefully within the next 5 years we have that north face covered.
Okay.
Are you leasing the building then from the Park District? Is that how it's set up?
No, we actually own the building on licensed property.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, so something we could put on a consent agenda? Is that an issue?
I don't know if it's okay with you.
All right,
Sure.
let's do that. Thank you. Okay. All right, thanks, crew.
Mayor and members of the council, the next item on your agenda, CA2, is with the tandem development agreement for planned industrial site for property located in the northwest corner of 163rd and 355. This is a property just east of Panduit. Pam, maybe if you would get rid of the haunted house on the slide for me, or can somebody jump up there? We do have the petitioners here. They'll certainly be available for questions. Tandem Development, if you recall, had come to the May 20th meeting as well. The council had discussed the planning and zoning and the use. This today for June 3rd meeting will be the development agreement. Both would seek final approvals on June 17th. The petitioner did conduct a traffic study, and the projections concluded that their development alone is not warranting a signal in that intersection. However, taking in Tandem, Sagebrook, Panatone, with the growth of those developments all being built out, eventually we will need a signal. So at this point, we've asked the petitioner to donate $50,000 to the city towards the cost of a future signal, along with those other petitioners to cover a portion of the grant to get it done. The developer, however, in this agreement is required to improve 163rd Street. Gauger will be improved with Panatone, and a shared cost has been negotiated in a separate agreement with these folks to finish. So in this development agreement, it's about 163rd, and the development entrance and handing the truck traffic with a proper rating over the entire length of their property to the west edge from the existing tollway section that was improved by the Illinois Tollway. So if we have them connect to that part and go to the western boundary of their property, they'll be responsible for building that to engineering and city standards. The development agreement we provided to you was a draft. We have basically 3 sections that we're proposing some minor changes. Staff has circulated that around this morning. We've talked and met with the petitioner today. Basically, in lieu of having a separate agreement, we're going to go ahead and include specific specifications to build out this road, and engineering will certainly approve this before we bring it back to you, and include an exhibit having explaining what that is. We've decided to settle on a $35,000 donation to the city in regards to the sidewalks in lieu of building a sidewalk to nowhere in front of Panduit. And then the third item would be one section that petitioner has requested to delete, and staff concurs that temporary fencing for screening between the two buildings of Phase 1 and Phase 2, if after 5 years the second building isn't built, is not necessary because of the frontage and landscaping will be so thick. So those are the three changes that are different than the document you have before you. And I believe the petitioner's here with a couple pictures, and we're certainly open to any questions you have. But again, the zoning and use we've discussed, and so this is really just the development of the road.
Okay.
You want him to talk about anything, or?
Any questions? Yeah, please.
So the money for the stoplight, that's assuming we get a grant, right?
Correct. We've certainly, we just did the same thing at the intersection just down the road there where it's an 80-20 grant. Our contribution is $200,000. We accepted 50 from this petitioner, 50 from another, and 100 from another, so we will have the $200,000 to match the grant. Yes, there is a little risk there, but Amy's success rate on grant filings with the Will County Government League have been about 10 for 10, so I'm not too concerned long term.
Yeah,
Well, what happens if it goes south?
This is where I'm going is, right, they're trying to cut funding on a lot of this sort of stuff. And I don't know any of the specifics, right, but the feeling is those kind of things might get tighter. And I know Amy's done an awesome job on grants. I know she got one just south of there, but by the time this comes up, right, it could be a couple of years.
It would depend on the warrants and the build-out, but it could
Right.
be several years from now. And,
Right, and we don't know what the climate will be. And I understand from their perspective as well, right? They're agreeing to 50,000. It would be crappy for them to have to come back and, you know, that number, because that's only 20%, right? That number turns into 250,000 without a grant. But I do think we should have some protection there.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd feel more comfortable. If 20% is what it is, whatever we're paying, whatever 20% of the number is what we need to agree to, not $50,000. But because you're right, I don't want to get stuck with that bill if all options for Amy can get a grant if the money's there. We know that, but if the money's not there, you can't squeeze a turnip. So blood out of a turnip. So that's
Are we looking to potentially add language in that if a grant is not achievable, then they would be on the hook for more money at a later date, or how do you? We'll certainly have to negotiate with them. Yeah.
If that's what their pay is, I mean, unless you guys could think differently on this, but to me, 20% is
a quarter of it, right? We're just assuming that we're only going to have to pay 20% of the stoplight because 80 will be covered by a grant, right? Because they're paying a quarter of total cost.
Right, so in other words, 25% of total cost for the light. Because I wouldn't put a light in there. I have no reason to put a light in there unless this is
Unless it's warranted, right?
And so that goes for everybody, though. That goes for Panettone. That goes for Sagebrook. It goes for everybody.
Well, and that's where we've already signed agreements with those folks in a similar manner, and now you're putting an additional standard on the third one.
Well, all right.
If we had this discussion 6 months ago, but going forward, we could certainly have those in all agreements.
Well, I'm not here to be unfair to one user.
That's kind of where I think we are today. But Amy, do you want to come up and address any of it? But
that's something that slipped by me in the past with the other two
I guess I didn't
agreements
think
then.
about it that way.
So the other ones we assumed.
Same thing. We signed agreements that they would give. Well, we negotiated agreements for improvements on roads and everything else, but the petitioner is spending quite a bit of money rebuilding our road in front of their property too. So,
well, I mean,
I'll
take the blame for letting it slip on those other two.
Yeah,
but I think in the future we need to think about that.
We can certainly, on a fresh slate of property, have that in development agreements.
Yeah, it needs to be whatever their share is the share of whatever the end of total cost final is, grant or no grant. All right.
And then my other question is related to the sidewalk, right? They're making a donation in lieu, and I get it, right? It doesn't make sense right now to put a sidewalk there. And I don't know what the agreement is with Panduit or around there, but would they, I think we probably want to document, would they be willing to grant us easement if in the future we do want to put a sidewalk through there?
We have one. We have a master plan.
Yeah, but I don't know.
2007.
Yeah, but I don't know that a master plan.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Gives us the
That
right
doesn't
to put a sidewalk
entitle.
on their property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree we don't need to do it now. We might not ever want to do it, but just in case, right? That's not really that far from the school. I know there's really nobody who lives east of there that would probably walk to the school, but it's an area that we might eventually want some sort of sidewalk or bike path. I think bike path might even
So
be more likely.
a text amendment, an easement authority, I can't speak for Paul if you want to come up, Paul, but we could certainly add some language to the agreement that as long as they don't have an expense with it, I think they would probably agree to it.
That's what I'm asking, right? I'm not asking to charge
in
them
the right
for
of way?
it.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd have a problem with that.
And then I'd like to see that language thrown in. Again,
And I'm not sure
no
it's
extra
even,
cost
Pam
to
makes a
them,
good
but-
point too. I'm not even sure it's necessary. We can confer with engineering and everything, but, we will have right-of-way out there too that you potentially could put a sidewalk or a path into right-of-way.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if that's the same thing or not. I just want to make sure that we've got.
If
that
we want to
clearance.
later, we have the right to put a sidewalk in.
I don't think we could ever go wrong with putting a sidewalk. People do like to have
Sure.
sidewalks that they can.
Yeah, there's a prevailing theory of,
whatever.
and this goes back way before my time here in Lockport, do you have developers build these in no matter what, where they are, so that later you are able to fill in easier? But that also gives you an unfinished look throughout the town where, at least if it's all grass, it may look more naturalized. It is entirely a policy decision. Right now, we've allowed developers to give fees in lieu of for bike paths and sidewalks, so this is certainly within the realm of what we've been doing. But going forward, we can certainly make that determination and change direction on anything you want to do.
The only rub I see with putting a path or, a curb, not a curb, a sidewalk on the other side, is that, some residents were concerned that, kids are going to cross the street to walk that one. Why don't you put it on our side? Well, the problem is you can't, because there's a giant swath of unincorporated Lockport right there, so we can't put a sidewalk. So now does it just encourage people, and kids to cross the street? I don't know, that's the only rub I can see.
And maybe we don't need to. I just wanted to have the ability if it makes sense at some point. But you're right. I guess maybe that.
Yeah, because of the unincorporated spot where you can't put the
we can't do
sidewalk,
anything on the south side.
where most of the people are, on the south side.
And maybe it's a matter of, we are going to be designing these road specs that we make sure that the right-of-way is wide enough that if we need to stick a sidewalk in there, we can do that. I'm sure Amy can work with their engineering on those plans before we submit them to you for the next vote,
Okay. All right.
in lieu of a text amendment to the agreement.
Chris, you had something?
No, it was answered.
All right. You feel like everybody said what they need to say?
So we would bring this one back along with the planning and zoning approvals and your discussions from the previous committee of the whole, both on the agenda for a vote on City Council on June 17th.
Okay.
And we would have the attachment about the building, the road construction attachment at that point.
Okay. Well, we'll put it on for an action item.
Yes.
You can hear things, so. All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And the next item, I think, is our city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I have two items. First one is the acceptance of 5 grants of easement for the Beamy State Street water main project. If you've been down that way recently, you see that there's a new water main being installed that parallels State Street. It's being moved from the rear yards to the front yards of those homes. Because it's a state route, the state did not allow us to put the water main in the state right-of-way, so we needed to acquire easements from the property owners. The property owners, 5 of the 6 property owners have granted the easement without compensation. We have a 6th house at 2100 South State Street that actually has been abandoned and it's in foreclosure. We're working with the bank upon acquisition of title by the bank. We're hoping that the bank then will grant the easement. We're able to work around them at this point. We'd like to put this on the next agenda for formal acceptance of the easements.
Yeah, any questions? I'm okay with the consent on that.
Thank you. And the second item I have is an informational item dealing with the Creekside Estates South Phase 2 subdivision. It's a 16-lot subdivision that is development ready, fully entitled. All approvals are in place. This is under a 2007 annexation agreement. A couple of months ago, we received a written request from the developer asking to establish a separate HOA, homeowners association, for the 16-lot subdivision. The other part of Creekside Estates South was contacted asking to see if they had any objection to this. They said they did not. This subdivision, the 16-lot subdivision, has been engineered separately from the original, the first subdivision, and can operate on its own. The original annexation agreement that goes back a few years required a single HOA to be established. Based on the fact that we have a request coming from the current developer and no objection in writing from the existing HOA, I'm bringing it to you as an informational item and recommending that we deem that the creation of a second HOA is substantial compliance with the annexation agreement, and that it would not require a formal amendment of the annexation agreement. As you know, to formally amend an annexation agreement, it's a 2 or 3 month process. This developer would like to get going this summer with construction, sale and construction of homes. Basically, from my review of the agreement, the intent was making sure there's an HOA in place and making sure the covenants are consistent. I did review the covenants for the proposed 16-lot subdivision, and they are almost identical, very consistent as far as size of home, all the other restrictions that we imposed on the first phase. So it would be my view that this is substantial compliance with the agreement, and we as a staff would like to give the developer permission to proceed. So I bring that to you as an informational item. If you think we should go through the formal amendment process, we can certainly do that, but it's my recommendation that we deem this to be substantial compliance with the intent of the original agreement and allow them to proceed.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Is this one of those HOAs that those homeowners have to put money into, like an association every year?
Yes.
Is the 16 homes going to be able to bring in enough money to make something happen?
Yes, it's actually a one-street subdivision. It's Oak Run Court. There is a detention pond that they'll be responsible for maintaining. We do have a backup special service area that would allow the city to step in case there's some problem as far as maintenance. But it appears that there's a fully functioning HOA in existence for Creekside South Phase 1. No reason to doubt that this 16-lot subdivision can't handle and do the same thing.
Okay. I mean, the only reason I ask is, like, yeah, obviously the less homes, the higher the money to fix a problem. So does 16 homes generate enough money in an HOA to deal with that kind of stuff?
Yes, there'll be a common area. It's a fairly small area to maintain. Most of it will be privately owned lots as far as lawn maintenance. There's a small entryway that'll be taken care of, and then the detention pond. I believe, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I think the proposed annual fee is someplace in that $400 to $500 range. So there should be adequate cash flow to take care of their obligations.
All right. Joanne, you've been around the block a little bit with those things. That sound right to you?
Yeah, they usually do take everything into consideration and try to have enough money in there so that it does cover.
Okay. All right. Anybody have a problem with the recommendation? All right. We're
Thank
good.
you very much.
Okay. All right. It's everything for Committee of the Whole, looks like. Any
Mayor, I'd like
public
to
comments?
yes, I would like to bring up just one comment, new business, just a courtesy reminder, we do have the TCC presentation with the consultants of Will County on the Committee of the Whole agenda at 7 p.m. on June 17th. We will have the 2 townships, so Lockport and Homer Glen, in attendance, as well as the City of Homer Glen officials. If you recall, the TCC is the Transportation Corridor Committee with Will County on the Bruce Caton Farm Road Transportation Plan. And again, the consultants would be here to kind of give us a history of how we got to where we are today, and we appreciate them coming in and having a public meeting with us.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. That's a big one. And Senator McGuire said he would try to make it out as well. I've had a number of residents ask me about it, and I try to encourage them to come. You know, there's some anxiety about this other cut through, you know, basically a parallel road next to Cedar Road, which seems to baffle most of us. So that's, yeah, so that's why we've, you know, one of the reasons we, among many, we asked for this meeting. So that's good. Yeah, June 17th. All right, anything else? All right, then can I have a motion to adjourn Committee of the Whole?
So moved.
Who is that, Chris? All right, Chris, seconded by
Second.
Alderwoman Bartleson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We need a break. You guys want to move on, you Blackhawk fans?
Let's just move right
All
on.
right. Doing it. All right, City Council. You want to do another roll call, Alice, for us?
Tracos, absent. Capadona,
Here.
Locally,
Here.
Smith is absent. Tuscan,
Here.
Vandermeer,
Here.
Coretta,
Here.
Bartleson.
Here.
6 present, Mayor.
All right, very good. So, go on to consent agenda. Can I have a motion to have a consent agenda?
So moved?
Second.
All right, Vandermeer, or rather, Beretta, seconded by Vandermeer, or either way. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so on the consent agenda, we have regular city council meeting minutes from May 20th. We have the committee of the whole meeting minutes from May 20th. We're looking to approve the payroll period ending May 24th, approval of any bills, and the investment policy, which has been revised. So can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Alderman Vandermeer, seconded by Alderman Deskin. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Under my report, I want to just talk a little bit about these liaisons. I had talked about it a few weeks ago, maybe making committees or something where I felt like the aldermen and the city council can have a little more involvement, play some larger roles, and kind of having discussed it with Tom Thanis and Ben Benson, we've kind of decided to create what are called council liaisons. I don't want this to be, I don't want it to restrict what we do. I don't want it to add red tape. I don't want to add bureaucracy. So that's why I didn't want to go into this like a full-blown committee with minute meetings and, having to be videotaped. I just want council members to be able to go out and get stuff done. And so if it's individuals on it, they're liaisons, this works quite well. So I put before you guys, kind of what I've asked each person on the council to oversee and look after. And this isn't about, people, it's not about making any policy decisions. It's not about making decisions. It's about observing, finding out what's going on, being able to report back. Sometimes there'll be some tasks. For instance, I'll give you an example. I asked Joanne Bartleson to kind of oversee code compliance. One of the things that we're struggling with now as we seek to get the retailers in, we're finding that they're starting to do drive-throughs. We don't know when they come through, but suddenly, there was a hotel chain that came through a couple weeks ago. We need to look good. We can't have tall grass, especially in our arteries. Our main entryways really need to be cleaned up. So I asked Joanne, because I'm asking her to be the code compliance liaison, to drive around with Tom Fulton, our code enforcement officer, and look at some of the problem areas and come up with some solutions that can be addressed, and then she would come and present that at council. So those are the kind of ways I see this playing out, and for each of us in our respective roles. So these are the roles that I've decided, and I've talked with each council member individually about this, and I think we're all in agreement. So code compliance would be Alderwoman Joanne Bartleson. I've asked JR to look at, be part of downtown development, and also included that as Star Business Park. It's a big part of our downtown development, and I include that in this as well. I've asked Alderman Peretta to be in charge of branding and marketing. We're certainly doing outreach beyond the city of Lockport. He's very good at posting things and getting things out there, and I think his experience will help tremendously as we brand and market. Jason Vandermeer, be finance and revenues. I've asked Alderman Capadona to be in charge of human resources, ethics, and any legislative issues we have. His background as a lawyer, I think will do very well for that. Alderman Jim Petrakis, I've asked to be kind of oversight and look after planning and zoning and land use, making sure that we keep an eye on things so that by the time they get to us, we'll have a better heads up on things so we're not taken by surprise, which I think sometimes happens, or I feel like it does. I asked Alderman Deskin to look at public safety and community outreach. That's kind of working with the police department. But also, one thing that Darren is great at, he always comes to me like, hey, do you know that, the wrestling team won state championship, or this person's retiring? I mean, he's great at bringing that information. He has a really good pulse on the community. So I asked him to be, to look after that and keep on that as well, because I think that is a very important part of what council does. And then I will look after economic development with staff, and so that's how I've looked at breaking this up.
You forgot Smith.
Oh yeah, sorry, Brian Smith. I've asked to do public works and infrastructure. That's really making sure that we stay on the CIP. It's also being able to, go out, look at projects. I remember, last year when the Division Street Bridge seemed to it sat for a number of weeks, so we didn't know what was going on. That's the kind of stuff like, Brian, I want you to be familiar with every project that's going on. Do a drive-by once a week, see where it's at. If you see things are stalled, give me a call, give Amy a call. It just helps have another set of eyes on the problem. So I know staff might be anxious about some of these things, but I think it's not meant to be intrusive or restricting of your jobs. It's just meant to help keep me informed and also each other on the council better informed about what's going on.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I did send out a memo to staff earlier today, just kind of sharing this, and that, again, this is an opportunity for them as staff to reach out to individual council members and get some buy-in from the council and selling their initiatives to the group, that they are still to follow our same process and procedures in dealing with myself, and as we get things with initiative and momentum for approval, that this allows us another road of dialogue from the individual council members that I think want to be involved and have a particular thing that they have specialties in. So I think it'll work great.
Okay. I forgot. Darren Deskin's personally assigned to Tom Thanis to follow him 24/7. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate the stepping up. I know it's, $250, every 2 weeks? What do we get? So I know it's added responsibilities, but it's, I think it'll be worth it. So thank you for helping. All right. What's next?
I believe I have a request for collective bargaining this evening.
Is that something we need to actually approve then? Oh, I guess we do need to. We put it on.
Oh,
as
I'm
an
sorry.
action
Yes,
item.
thank you.
Yeah,
We
so can I have a motion to approve these liaisons as presented?
So moved.
Alderman Deskin,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Galogly, sorry. I just drew a blank there for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, JR.
All right, yeah, good catch. Thank you, JR. Yes, Mayor, the next item on your agenda is a request from me in regards to collective bargaining matters for 2C2. And I would say that we would need to convene at the end of this meeting to go into recess and come back out.
Okay. We'll try to keep it short
As we
for you
normally
guys
do.
with the jerseys on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lisa, what do you got?
Mayor, the bond hearing, you have the document.
Oh, yes, I need to read.
Do you have one there? Because there's one here if you don't.
Got 'em
Okay,
covered.
we're going to do bond hearing. For a public hearing for bond sale, the City Council of the City of Lockport, Illinois is holding a public hearing on the 3rd day of June 2015 at 7 p.m. The purpose of the hearing is to receive public comments on the proposal to sell bonds at one time or from time to time as funds are to be applied in the amount of up to $1,300,000 for the purpose of financing the construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and/or repair of various streets within the municipality for replacement, expansion, removal, or enhancement of certain infrastructure and facilities. So, Lisa, do you want to comment to that?
No, I don't have any comment if the public has anything to say.
Okay. Yeah, basically, when we passed the CIP plan last year, we included some bonds within it. These are bonds that get paid back quickly.
Yes, 3
So-
years.
So this is good. So that's where it's at. So if there's no comments from the public, I will close the public hearing. Okay. Anything else I need to do technically there, Tom?
No, that's it, Mr. Mayor. It's,
Okay.
You're entitled to vote on the matter now.
Okay.
Actually, they'll be coming back to you at the next meeting, I
At
believe.
the next meeting, we'll have an ordinance to vote on.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Next is Tom?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, what's before you tonight is a follow-up to our conversation from 2 weeks ago regarding the 2005 annexation agreement for what we've been calling the Patty Cakes development. Because the regional lift station that was anticipated to be developed in 2005 didn't materialize, we've gone to a Plan B, which is a small lift station that will serve Patty Cakes. The city will be installing and constructing the lift station, but it'll be privately owned and maintained by Patty Cakes later on. During the last 10 years, Patty Cakes has been using a tank to dispose of its sewage, to have it put in the tank and then pumped away, and it has not been working very efficiently. As a matter of fact, our Public Works Department was out there today dealing with the problem. That you will see a contract fairly soon coming before you for the construction of the lift station. I believe what Ben and I heard today was the low bid on that project was $118,000. I believe you'll see that at a council meeting soon. I recommend that, Mr. Mayor, because this is an amendment to an existing annexation agreement that requires a public hearing, if you could open the matter up for a public hearing and then close it and then vote and ask the city council if they have any questions. If not, I recommend a favorable vote for the amendment.
Okay, so I will open up a public hearing for comments, if anyone has any concerns or on this particular agreement. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Then I will bring the public hearing to a close and bring it to council for a vote. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, we get Alderman Capadona, seconded by Alderman Deskin. Any concerns or thoughts up here?
I just want to make a comment. I will abstain from voting. My company does sell pumps into the wastewater, and I don't really know, who they're using for this. So I'll abstain from voting on this.
Sounds good. So then can I have just a roll call then?
Yes. Bartleson?
Yes?
Beretta?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Gilogly?
Yes.
And Capadona?
Yes.
Do I need to vote on that one just in case?
We
Okay.
need 6 yes votes.
Yep, then I will vote in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is that everything? Holy moly. Any open floor comments? BJ, want to spill? Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Or a motion to
we adjourn?
recess, actually.
Just
sorry.
want to remind everyone, we have the Lockport Police golf outing coming up. It's for the benevolent fund. If something unfortunate happened to a police officer, the funding will be there to take care of the family, or if there's disabling type of injury. So it's for a worthy cause, and of course, we all up here support our local police department. Thank you for all you do for providing the safety to all of our residents. Myself, Darren, and Ben, we participated in the First Responders Walk that took place this past Saturday, so that was something that was very beneficial. I think the rain kept some people away, or at least the threat of rain kept it away, so I look forward to a very robust turnout in the years to come.
Thank you. I think Mark from the Iron Horse organized it and provided a meal afterward. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, Mark at Iron Horse has just been a tremendous part of the community, so absolutely.
Absolutely.
When is the police golf outing? What date is it?
Oh, Thursday, June 25th, if I have that date correct. I believe tee-off is at 9 a.m., Broken Arrow Golf Course. Thanks, Alice. And then one final note, congratulations to all the Girl Scout girls who are now bridging. They're bridging today. Unfortunately, I missed my daughter bridging, so the girls going from like daisies to brownies and brownies to junior scouts, they're doing that tonight. So congratulations to all those girls in the city of Lockport.
Very good.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right, I have a motion to recess to go into executive session.
Make a motion?
Second.
Alderman Bartleson, seconded by Alderman Vandermeer. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll take 5 to get set up.
Okay, right now.
Mr. Mayor, members